Welcome to LOA Today. I'm Walt here with Louis D'Souza on this Monday, September the 28th, 2020. It's 4 p.m. in New York. Wherever you are in the world, thank you for joining us for another episode of LOA Today, your daily dose of happy. And here on the Monday show, we're getting used to doing a show with two again rather than three because Amy's going to be gone for a few weeks. And it's kind of like a throwback, Louis. I mean, we're not used to not having Amy there jumping in with all her enthusiasm, but we'll find a way.
Yeah, no, we almost. Yeah, my daughter may pop in next week, so we'll see.
Isabel, okay.
Yeah,
fabulous.
She may pop on, and we'll have a chat to her.
I don't know if I told you, we actually had a couple of emails from people saying they loved having Isabel on. So,
oh right, cool.
Yeah, which was really great, and it makes sense. I mean, she's so well spoken. I mean, I think I mentioned this before. I can't remember the last time that I heard a 12-year-old. She's 12, right?
She is, yeah.
She's a 12-year-old, right? A 12-year-old preteen so carefully form her words. I mean, just pristine. She could be on stage. She does it so well. It's very impressive.
She has a dad that demands that she says things accurately and clearly. Poor girl.
Well,
it's having a terrible effect on her.
Unfortunately, what Abraham tells us is that our job as parents is to bring them into the world, and that's it. And unfortunately, we often take the job further than that, but that's the way it goes,
Well, if you're going to ask me something and I'm not clear, I'm going to ask for clarity. I don't care what Abram says. I need clarity, otherwise I can't move forward. It's just like a real stumbling block for me. My wife can kind of intuit some of the things and move forward, but often I'm just blocked because it doesn't make sense. You've asked me something that is not logical, and I fall apart. I can't work around it that easily. It's like, just give it to me exactly as you want it, and then I can work.
I understand that. I mean, I really do. It took me quite some time to learn how to just kind of move beyond whenever I was given stuff that wasn't just a nice tautological string, and say, okay, go to the person in your mind. What is that person actually trying to tell you? And then confirm that and see. And I've gotten better at that over time. But
I'm sitting there often, and I've got this idea in my mind what they're saying, and then it goes off into a wacky tangent, and then I start taking the wacky tangent and bringing it into the real world, and they look at me like, "What are you on?" I said, if I break it down, this is what you said. This is how I understand it. And they're like, no.
Communication is, I've said this for a long time, long before I knew anything about the law of attraction. Communication is the most difficult thing we human beings do. It is more difficult than learning any skill. It's more difficult than becoming skilled in terms of developing your skill. And it's the thing that we fail most often at. And if anyone ever doubts that, just sit down and play the old-fashioned game of telephone, where you sit in a circle and start whispering stuff to each other, and you find out just how quickly communication can fall apart. It's amazing how fast. And you end up with something at the end that's indecipherable.
I think it's largely, Walt, because you live in your world, I live in mine, and never the twain do meet.
Well, every Monday, but other than that,
yeah. It's it's trying to convert my world into your world, and then seeing your world from your perspective, and then bringing it into mine. And yeah, it's some people are good at it, really good at it, and I do admire them. I must admit, hat goes off to them because they are absolutely brilliant. And especially when somebody understands me, what? try to be clear. I was doing that Facebook post. I don't know if you saw that one. It's like, and she was like, question mark. And then I took it apart and I rewrote it as clearly as I absolutely possibly could and put it back in again. It's like, oh, yeah, okay. And I realized that, I wasn't being clear enough, and that's not me. So kudos on them to, pull me up on, because, you know what you want to say, and you try to get it out in as few words as possible because you've got lots of other things to do. And, I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook. I'm on that group, LOA Changed My Life group, and I really like some of the people and the questions and the things that they ask, and I really want to respond.
Sure.
Sometimes you just you really need a long response. You put a really nice long response there the other day, and it's like to take that time to really fill that out And it's important because if you don't, you get people that don't really understand what you're trying to say. It's clear in your mind, but
Plus, I've also
especially whenever.
learned when I'm going to do a long one on Facebook, I don't do it on Facebook. I open up like a notepad. I type in there so I can make all my mistakes there, fix them all, copy and
Mm-hmm.
paste, and that way it comes in pristine. Because otherwise, because of the way Facebook will tend to, punch stuff in. I had that happen the other day with somebody. I was replying to somebody else. His name was, no, I was replying about somebody else who had posted to, uh, and this was a person who had commented on the same post. The guy who posted was named Jim. And so I typed in, well, Jim was doing this. And as soon as I typed in Jim, it punched in a last name along with it. I said, no, I don't want the last name. That's not even the right last name. Dot, dot, dot. I'll get rid of it. Typed the Jim again, and it came in with a regular just Jim, no last name. Posted it, and then later on, the guy whose name had accidentally gotten inserted there responded saying, "I didn't respond to this post." I said, "I didn't talk to you. I typed it, put it in, I deleted it."
Yeah.
So yeah, I like to put it in a notepad or something like that first because it's much easier.
I love that at the end of our chat last week, I was saying that I noticed that Amazon Audio had now added podcasts, and yours wasn't there. And then
Right, yeah.
just minutes later, you get this like email or something saying, "Hey, wouldn't you like to register your podcast
That was cool.
on it?" And I was like, oh, "Wow, this is so LOA."
That's a good point too, because that happened right after we were done recording. I
Yeah.
did fill in the form and send it. I haven't heard anything since then. I got to find out, did we ever make it? I don't know if we're on there.
Yeah, we're gonna have to check.
I have no idea. But getting back to the whole thing about communicating, that you were kind of elucidating what I was talking about, how difficult communication can be. That's one of the reasons why I'm so impressed by a Jane Roberts, an Esther Hicks, David Strickle, any of the people who can receive from what I no longer call non-physical, because the stream has educated me that we're all physical, even people in non-physical. So now source energy, I received the message from source energy. That's the way I now have to express it. Anyone who can take that, first of all, they're not getting English, so that makes it more difficult. They're getting these blocks of thought. They're translating on the fly. Half the time they can't even remember what the conversation was because they're focused so intently on doing that communication. From my perspective, that is mastering communication, being able to do it that well, that quickly from a non-English perspective.
The interesting thing about that world, as far as I understand it, is they don't do anything besides align with source, and then source does everything. They literally use their brain and interpret. So source energy does that, or Abram does that, not the individual whose body it is. As far as I understand, they're strictly, their only task is to remain a vehicle.
So
they don't do the translating. Yeah.
Good. That makes it easier. Still, the tongue and the mouth have to actually be engaged, and they have to operate properly.
Yeah, but again, the source energy takes that over.
And yet, both David and Esther have confirmed that they are not being taken over. They are still their own independent selves. It's just
well, if I agree for you
they're
to drive my car, it's you're still driving my car, but it's an agreement. Yeah.
yeah. So that makes it an interesting balance. I mean,
it does. I mean, you have to learn to surrender to source and trust that there's going to be no abuse going on. But
right.
I'm sure over time, somebody can show you that there isn't going to be abuse. I mean, but you still have to go through that phase. Well,
fortunately, we live in an era when you can record whatever it is you're saying, and so all you have to do is record it and play it back, and okay, I guess that was all right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Jerry was watching the whole thing with Esther in the beginning.
Absolutely.
And saying, this looks okay.
Yeah,
this is cool.
He probably would have been the first one to object if there was something wrong. Like, wait a minute, you can't make my wife say that.
Yeah.
Not gonna let you do
definitely.
that. Yeah, but fortunately, that's not what happens. Which makes sense. I mean, if we are dealing with true source energy, which I think we are in those situations, then everything I understand tells me that they want nothing but our best good for us. So why expect anything different?
Yeah, I mean, if they're pure positive energy, there's no desire for abuse or harm in any shape or form. It's actually impossible for them if what they say is correct. Yeah.
Yep. I think it is. It certainly
feels right.
Yeah, it resonates, right?
Yeah. And if it feels right, it's my higher self agreeing with it. So,
right. Yeah. So yeah, A plus B equals C. That's pretty much what it adds up to. This does kind of remind me of something. I mentioned the thing about Jim. Jim comes up because he had posted something that was, I won't repeat what he posted, but let's just say it was an attempt at humor in an Abraham group, and the humor was appallingly disgusting, just absolutely sickening. So we'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
And he got a lot of pushback on it, as you
He
might
got
expect.
flack, yeah.
Yeah. Well, flack was being kind.
Kind, okay.
He got dragged across the coals for it. And he complained about it, the fact that he was getting dragged across the coals. And I basically said to him, well, if you're going to behave like, and I gave a, not a 4-letter word, but something close. So if you're going to behave like that, you got to expect you put it out, you get it back,
Yeah, it's the law of attraction.
Yeah. That's what this
what group are you
right?
in? What do you think?
But what that led to was a semi-interesting set of conversations with people who were defending him, saying, well, you shouldn't be calling him names like that. I mean, if you want to really help this guy, shouldn't you only be sending high vibration to him? And I said, well, yeah, usually that's what I do. But I also looked at this guy's history, and he has actually quite a long history of posting these pretty nasty things like this. This was probably about the nastiest one, but there's some really ugly stuff that he was posting. Stuff that, let's just put it this way, stuff that I don't prefer, that I don't like, and that a lot of people don't prefer, and a lot of people don't like. So you're going to tend to get pushback on that. I mean, I don't care what your value system is. You put stuff out there that people don't like, they're going to say I don't like it. Pretty straightforward. And they said, well, yeah, but it still means you should be putting out high vibration. Yeah, but the point is, he was getting all this feedback in high vibration and low vibration. The only thing he was responding to was the low vibration. He clearly wasn't hearing the high vibration stuff. So if I wanted him to hear me, I couldn't send him something pure high vibration. He wasn't going to read it. He wasn't going to draw it into his conscious mind. So that's why, I mean, I used one word. The rest of it was all very, up and up. It was just that one word, and that was throwing them off. So anyway, they had a whole conversation associated with it. And in the course of conversing with one of these people who were defending him, I ended up realizing that this other person shared his rather distorted sense of humor. And that's why he was really defending him. And that person made an interesting point. I figured this becomes like a conversational point for us. From his perspective, what Jim was posting was high vibrational because they liked it. And that's an interesting thing, because what's high vibrational for one person is not necessarily high vibrational for somebody else. Could actually be low vibrational. And that's something
that if you're in depression and you experience rage, it's a higher vibration, and it depends where you are on the scale as to how you're going to perceive this as feeling better or feeling worse. So
right, exactly.
It's understandable. So the thing that I understand and I see very clearly in my life is that I only tend to draw similar vibration people to me, and largely because I cut out a lot of media.
Sure.
That cutting out the media really drops. My brother came around and he's really enjoys going into the media and picking up bits and pieces, and he summarizes it for me, so I get this nice little
your dose that way.
encapsulated version, and
Reader's Digest version.
And I sat back and I thought, wow, I wouldn't like to be my brother. And I was like, just spending the time picking up the amount of information he's given me and putting it all together, I just couldn't expose myself to that. I just wouldn't want to. That's me. Sure. And everybody's different. And it was just really interesting to me that I couldn't put myself into that place. It has no desire whatsoever to sit there and trawl the medias for different information on different topics. There's a lot of fascinating stuff going on out there at the moment. And make no mistakes. And watching contrast play out in all its beautiful different forms out in this physical universe at the moment on planet Earth. And there's a lot of people that are revolting against the system.
Yes.
In numerous different ways.
Yes.
Yes. And
did I say yes, by the way?
It's really, really fascinating to hear it secondhand, but to really get myself involved in all that, I have no desire, absolutely none. And I create this whole world around me. And what happened the other day? I had a great conversation. You might even be listening because um, I, I was looking for some life insurance because one of mine lapsed and whatever. So I went online and this guy calls me back and we have this lovely LOA chat. What was his name? Jim, I think.
What is this about
So
Jim today? I mean,
yeah, Jim, another Jim.
we should put out
No,
a little disclaimer. We are not against gyms. It just happens to be the name of two people we
no,
interact
he
with.
was fantastic guy. He really is 23 years old. And he was listening and he was taking on board all different aspects. And he took on, he wrote down LOA Today and he was going to get the app and all the rest of it. So, he may even be listening, which is fantastic. And, he was really getting different aspects of the things I was telling him because he was really wanting to expand and he was sitting in a job that he didn't particularly love.
Ah, yes.
And listening to him, he was somebody who had an incredible amount of potential to go out there, expand, and really be exactly what he wants to be. And you sometimes really see that spark in somebody where they've got that raw potential just to explode and just to become everything. And he was open enough to listen and take on board a few things and start implementing them in his mind and playing with them a little bit. And it was really great to watch the whole thing evolve from a life insurance call to an LOA call. And those are the kind of conversations I'm getting all the time. When I'm in the sauna, I was always drawing those kind of people to me wherever I go, whatever I'm doing, I'm getting that kind of feedback. I'm having great conversations at the moment with my wife on a very high level. She's really taken on board all of this, integrated it, and now we're discussing the finer points of it. And it's so delicious to have a partner who really is able to play with the nuances of the intricacies of LOA.
Absolutely. I agree.
When I say LOA, I really want to clarify that it's not just law of attraction. To be more accurate, it's probably Abraham Hicks teaching. To be even more accurate, it's Abraham teaching plus the teachings of my entire life.
Right, sure.
Which is Louis' teachings now.
Louis' teachings, all right.
And that's what I really want everybody to start owning. Once they've got a little bit from this place, a little bit from Louis, a little bit from Abraham, a little bit from Walt, a little bit from Linda, etc. Once they've got a little bit from everybody, it is their stuff.
Yes.
They can take ownership of it and say, this is what I believe now. This is where I'm going. This is what I know to be right for me at the moment. And I'm open to more. You see,
good.
the big challenge with knowledge is this. What I know, Walt, is that size. That works. Tiny. Okay. And what I don't know is that size. Huge. Okay. And if I keep on going around saying, I know this, and this is what I know, and this is great, and this is how it is, and all the rest of it, then I'm not saying, what more can I get? What else is out there? Where can I go? I want to absorb more. And, I only know a tiny bit, more I found out, the less I know kind of thing. When people really are knowledgeable and all the rest of it, they're only knowledgeable on small subjects and little things, As I was saying to you, I think offline last time, there was this guru, and I know you don't like the word guru.
Just personally, that's I mean, lots of people like guru. I barely like the word master. I'm willing to tolerate it because to me it means you mastered something, but that's about as far as I'm willing to go with it.
So, the guru was asked, what's the difference between a teacher and a guru? And he said a teacher is somebody who studies a subject and then shares it with others. That's a teacher. And he said a guru knows nothing.
Yes.
He said the only thing a guru knows is where they are and where he's going, and that's it. That's it, nothing else.
Actually, that's a lot more than I know. I half the time don't have any idea where I'm going.
So, I really loved that concept, and it resonated with me very deeply, that you have a clarity of the basics of the rules of the game to life, as I like saying. And because of this basis, you can take any subject and any variation on anything, and you can have a fairly good conversation about it and have fairly strong and clear comments and discussions on any and all of it. So yeah, it really, really appealed to me because I've never heard it put that way before. And I'm always wanting to absorb new things and open to new things. And I was listening to, I got another Ramdas, it's an old Ramdas, one on Amazon Audible, the Audible books.
Sure.
And, he was really, as I pointed out before about Ramdas, he really struggled with the poor people and the suffering in the world and all that kind of thing. And in one of these talks, he really gets to the crux of the whole thing. And what he spends a lot of time talking about is step 5, is really experiencing that pain, that frustration, that torture, and also at the same time seeing where you can go with it and how you can expand. And
we haven't done this in a while, so let's go back a little bit to definitions and basics and explain what a step 5 is again.
Yeah, sure. So when you know what you don't want, you have a better idea what you do want. And there's a pivot point there, like your Pivot Pal Facebook group. I love it. Love watching it now and again, going in there. So you know what you don't want and you know what you do want. So if you're going through that experience of really struggling with a subject or a person or Donald Trump or something.
Wait a minute, where'd he come from?
I don't know. Other people have problems with him, not me. But he's definitely something that I think people could struggle with.
Oh yeah, that's a fair assessment, I would say.
A fair assessment.
Yeah.
So when you know what you don't want, do you actually at that same time, at that same moment, this is what step 5 is, at that precise moment of knowing what you don't like about Trump, know what he can be and what he can become. Can you sit at that pivot point, at that precise point, and experience both at exactly the same time? And you do that.
That's a skill. Yeah, but it's a skill, and it's a skill that gets learned. One of the things we learn in this lifetime, I think.
It's one of the things LOA people come to specifically with the Abraham Hicks teaching. Before that, must admit, with all the spiritual books and all the knowledge and everything I ever studied, I never understood. Never mind step 1, 2, and then 3 and 4. 5 was like not even on the radar in any shape or form. So right. Yeah, no, I think I don't know how to say this. My gratitude to the information Abraham Hicks has brought out is huge. For me, for my wife, and for many of the other people around me, it has been pivotal to helping them change. Absolutely. Sure. And it's not convoluted, it's not difficult, it's not complicated. It is just so simple. And my wife was saying, it's so clear, it's so cool, it's so good. My wife to say that about it, it's like,
that's an endorsement.
It's a big endorsement, especially my wife's not somebody who's rolls over and agrees with her partner at all. But with this, taking it in her life, putting it in and seeing the results, it's just been absolutely transformative for her. And, she really uses it at work extensively, helps other people to get it, etc. So it's like a whole expansion of the concept that goes out and out as those different circle of influence, as the network marketing people call it, are affected.
I love it.
I loved it. When I heard that term, it was like so cool.
but I'm familiar with the term because I'm familiar with network marketing. It's the first time I think I've heard network marketing terms like that applied to the law of attraction. That's the part that's cool to me. Like, oh, okay, yeah. So we've become an MLM group.
Well, literally, it's a great concept. And circle of influence is those people that live and are around you that you can exert some influence over, not because you are pushing or pulling them, but because you are an example that they desire to become. So one of the big things you learn about marketing along the way is magnetic marketing. It's huge business just teaching magnetic marketing, which is basically be a product of the product.
Okay.
So when you are passionate and all the rest of it. There's a Herbalife distributor who is famous for in the UK, and he's been told it's not allowed to say this anymore, but it left a marked impression on me. He said, the reason I've only got 2 helicopters is because 3 is ridiculous.
Oh, that's funny.
David is famous for saying that. Absolutely famous for saying that. He's not allowed to say it anymore.
And I'm curious why not, but whatever, you know.
Politics.
I mean, I don't want to go there, I suppose, but it's just like somebody actually create a rule for that. Okay. Whatever.
What a lot of people don't really get about the top network marketers is they are really making a lot of money.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, a lot of people have no idea. I'd say a lot of the American financial position is held up quite to a fair degree by network marketing, because a lot of them started in America and they've got out around the whole world. So you've got this funnel of money coming from all over the world to America, up the tree. And
I've always been proud
about
that.
Huge amount of money. Hey?
I've always been proud about that.
There's a huge amount of money being funneled that way.
Yeah.
It's gargantuous. And I don't think a lot of people fully understand network marketing. I think it's one of the, the biggest secret that you can learn as an LOA from network marketing is it's the best and probably toughest network marketing is the biggest and toughest self-development course you'll probably ever experience in your life.
Say that phrase again. Say it a little bit slower.
Network marketing is probably one of the best and toughest self-development courses in the world.
Self-development courses, yeah. Yeah.
Because not only do you have to get on board with the products, you have to learn to trust them, you have to learn to use them, you have to get your own result, you have to show others that, and you have to use magnetic marketing, ideally, because if you use any other marketing, you'll get your friends running away from you.
Oh, yeah. I was one.
Yeah.
Many times.
And I tell you, there's probably millions of people on this planet that run away from network marketers. Just for clarity, I don't do it anymore. In case somebody thinks I'm promoting it. And the only reason I don't do it anymore is not because I still use the products. I still love the company. I love so many aspects that I've grown out of it, but I've grown to a degree that I'm not growing anymore. So I needed to move into something else that I was more passionate about. It's as simple as that.
If I was going to do it, I would do it the Daniel Mangano way. Because what Daniel did, now I don't know how many of these companies he's involved in, but he was telling a story one time about the Money Game, his little ebook about how you build up your belief in how the law of attraction brings stuff to you. And he was talking about examples of, at my request, he was talking about examples of really wild, out of the blue kind of stuff that has appeared. And he thinks the favorite one of his is a multi-level marketing company that he joined and did nothing with. He couldn't even tell you what his link is, the link that they give out for, sharing stuff. He couldn't tell you what his link is, but every once in a while he gets an email that says he made another sale. That to me is the ultimate MLM, where I don't have to do anything, but the stuff comes in anyway.
Yeah, I loved Robert Kiyosaki because he was a big one that brought up the concept of passive income. And if anybody who's created a passive income like I have knows there's nothing passive about a passive income.
Yeah, right. That much I do know from experience. Yes.
I still make money out of Herbalife, but I still do put in a bit of effort. It still happens in the background because of existing customers, etc., and the infrastructure I created. But probably now it is to a degree passive, but it's much reduced, much reduced. But the properties, I still have to work on them every day. I'm still getting a new tenant for another one and looking after the last tenant and making sure this property is upgraded in that way and this one's done that. And mortgage and renewals
Oh
and
yeah.
insurance, and there's a whole lot of things that, as much as it's passive income, inverted commas, you're still doing stuff for it all the time. So yeah, it's a lot of fun when you kind of get it. But compared to doing a 9 to 5 job, getting out, going into a car, getting on a train, going into London, working the whole day, coming back exhausted, and working for somebody else, it's bliss. It is
Oh, I
passive income.
absolutely.
Depends where you look at it from, but you got all these different concepts going on.
No, I
Um,
agree with you entirely. I don't miss the 9 to 5 world. I haven't been in it in many years, and even though there have been years where the the financial opportunities were pretty darn thin for us, I still wouldn't go back because to me, that's actually it doesn't matter how much money I'm actually making there. That's actually
yeah.
freedom. That's actually earning money the hard way. That's the best way I can think of to describe it. It's money earning money the hard way, because
Mm,
I was literally at a place where I just did not like it, and I thought about that a few times, because one of the things we try to do in LOA/source energy discussion circles is learn ways to appreciate things that we normally don't like.
mm.
So if I was still working a 9 to 5, I asked myself, okay, well, what would I do in order to appreciate that? And it's kind of an interesting mental exercise to do.
I've done it. I've done it, and I tell you what, I'm pretty convinced in a very short period of time I'd be bumped up to management.
Well, that's my greatest fear. I mean, seriously, because I've been in management.
I understand that. I
I
understand
mean,
that.
it's not a nice
But
place to be. Yes, you get paid
it's
better, but whoa. Well, actually, sometimes you don't get paid better.
but there would be no ways that I could just do a supermarket packing the trolley thing. It I could do it because I could do my I was going to say spiritual exercises. I would do my source energy alignment techniques.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I would probably have a lot of fun with it. But because of that fun, because I'd be exuding so much happiness, I suppose, uh, that gets picked up, and the people start wanting to use that as leverage along the way with different
Oh,
people and different
absolutely.
things. And it's
Yeah.
just the way it gets worked.
Well, even if you're not a
Um,
smart manager, if you see something like that, you got to grab
yeah,
it. You got to do something with it.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And especially because I would have no desire to move or do anything or to go anywhere or to climb a ladder, there'd be no resistance. It
Hmm.
would just it would just be handed me on the plate, and I'd just go up the ladder, and if I wanted to,
Right.
or if I decided not to, that would also be a choice. So yeah, I just think it would be particularly easy for me. Really,
Well, I
really
think it
think it
would
would
be
be
easy from that perspective. For
from
me,
that
the hardest
perspective.
part is,
Yeah.
like I said, I'm quite serious when I say I really don't want to climb the ladder. I really don't want to get into
Mm,
management because I have been there. It's not a nice place to be, for me anyway. So that for me is the biggest challenge. What could I do? Let's say I did go back to 9 to 5. I did get promoted to some management level that's higher than my level of tolerance normally would go for. Okay, now I got to really, the rubber's meeting the road here. How do I appreciate that? That to me is the mental challenge that I play every once in a while. How would I appreciate that? And I have ways that I kind of go at it indirectly. I haven't found a way to go at it directly yet. But
Do you know why I'm laughing, Walt? Is because I see myself running the company in no time. I'd be making the rules. I'd be taking over the
yeah,
whole show. I'd
yeah,
be
I guess
redesigning it completely.
there would be some satisfaction in that, I guess. Yeah.
There would be no stuck in middle management.
But even that, I mean, I've had ideas about, new companies to start. Louise and I talk about them all the time. We just have no desire to start them.
No,
You know,
I know
there's a,
exactly what you mean.
there's a
Because
lot that goes into that.
if there's no alignment, I think I talked about this on one of the podcasts, but this lady in this group found this website about clouds, and she loves clouds, and this guy loves clouds, and he's created a portal where you can pay a subscription per month. And she was working out how many members and how much the subscription is, and realizing this guy must be pretty much a millionaire already. And all he's doing is you join, and then you can put up your pictures of clouds. And he's a millionaire. It's like, come on, how easy is it to make money out of something he obviously loves?
Yeah.
Obviously loves. So when you're following your passion, it's really not that difficult.
Well, that illustrates it nicely.
Easy.
Because it's not like there are any lack of business possibilities. What there is often a lack of for many people is a knowledge of what their own passion is and what drives them and what gets them excited. So I know for myself, I took years to figure out what my passion was.
Do you know why I think people struggle so much with that, Walt?
Why?
Because it's what the law of attraction teaches you to do that you didn't know you could do in the past.
Okay.
And that is to dream again.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's true.
Because once you understand LOA, you start thinking anything is possible. You really know that as a fact after you've studied LOA for a while. It's not just a pretty saying anymore.
Not at all. No.
Not at all. So you now got to that point of, I'm allowed. I can give myself permission to absolutely dream of anything. And then...
And that's actually part of the process of kind of acclimating to the whole LOA concept is the process of, trusting and allowing yourself to actually dream, to believe that it's okay to dream, that your dreams will actually come true. That you're not wasting your time. This isn't all a bunch of empty wheel spinning. This is actually going to get somewhere. Yeah.
So powerful, so incredibly powerful. And then your life changes. That's why my fundamental desire in life is to help people understand the fundamentals of LOA, the rules to the game of life. That can completely change. Doesn't matter if you're a piano player, if you're a singer, if you're a street cleaner, it doesn't matter who you are, a window cleaner. If you start getting these principles, as I said, the window cleaner that used to come here, he's now got a huge business. I used to come there and climb a ladder and clean with a cloth. And I said to him, think about what other guys are doing. Because he said, oh, no, it's a normal problem with businesses. He was saying, you can't trust these people. And, all that kind of thing goes on in the head. I said, that's all in your head, just think about what other guys are doing. And then he started watching them and all the rest of it. Now he's got a huge business, so big that his wife was bitching to me the other day that, are you to blame for this big business that's giving us nightmares?
It's all your fault.
Because I was talking to him again and again over the years, and just saying to him, think about this, do this, look at this. And I didn't expect anything out of it. I expected nothing out of it. I had no, I just like sharing my passion of LOA. That's it. It's game over. Yeah. And then to watch him go out and do it himself, and he doesn't need me. He hasn't wanted me. He hasn't come to me for advice. Nothing. He just took bits and pieces of the idea, manifested it himself, and off he went. And, it was years he was spending here cleaning the windows by himself. He doesn't come to my house anymore. I never see him. He's got somebody else doing it. He's creating big businesses all over there. He's doing contracts with companies and, huge office blocks and different things. It's just different worlds. So, I just love it when I see that kind of spark that has ignited in people. Like my wife's got an incredible ability to dream now of just blows me apart. Wow, you're looking at something that big, and my daughter, there's different desires going on in the house. Parents don't want animals. We go on holiday too much and to leave them in pet homes and blah, 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 blah. And I had a lot of animals as a kid, and I was on a farm, and they died of tick bite fever. They fell down mine shafts. They were bitten by snakes and died. They were stolen. They were ridden over. They were killed by baboons. You name it. Okay, fallen down, mine shafts. Everything. possible. Every time I fell in love with an animal or dog, it was killed. My dad started killed one because it started becoming a hunting dog and killed the deer, etc. So he went out and shot it, and it's just blows
Gee, I
you
don't sense a
away.
pattern there at all. I don't know what the heck that is. I mean, gee.
And then eventually we erected a fence around the property. I mean, we were in the middle of the sticks, absolutely
Yeah.
nowhere. When we fenced in a certain part of the property, and then the dog that stayed there forever. Game over. you
Ah,
know, it was the fact that there was no fence. I hadn't really thought about it. I don't think my dad had or anybody had. But once we
mhm.
put a fence in place, everything changed.
Everything's changed. Yeah.
Um, because I
Oh,
mean,
I
it
didn't know
was
about that.
real Wild West there, kind of
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
We had baboons coming into the house and snakes and monkeys all over the place stealing all our fruit and veg, and it was a really
This is
different
not what
world.
we would call magnetic marketing, by the way.
But I tell you, I had an exciting childhood. I can
I'm sure
make
you did. Yes.
I can make a baboon sound exactly like a baboon, but it's so loud it will wake up the whole neighborhood. I used to stand on the one side of the valley and shout to the baboons on the other. A lot of fun with that was. I could speak their language to a degree.
I guess so. Yeah. Ah, that's funny. That's really funny. Well, as we're talking about all this stuff, the appreciation theme, as usual, keeps coming up, and it reminds me of a conversation we had on Friday, because during the Friday show, we had a visit from a co-host who used to be just shortly after I think you came onto the program. He was one of the ones who came on. His name was Carlos Balasquita, and Carlos had been on from October through December of 2018. And then he left because at that point in time, he was living in LA and was on the verge of a new acting career he was all excited about and so forth. So he left to do that. And that's about the last we heard of him, except for like little bits and pieces on Facebook. And the story he had to tell on Friday was one of how all of that fell apart,
Mm,
completely fell apart. He ended up moving back home to his parents in Miami for a short time. He was without work. He ended up working a minimum wage job, waiting tables and so forth. And he was trying to figure out how to get to New York. He figured if he could get to New York, that would probably help him with his acting career and with other things he wanted to do. And now you also have to know a little background about him. Before he came on to our show, he had been a manager. Oh, here we go again, managers at Amazon. He was one of
mm,
the managers at Amazon and had quite a bit of experience there. He'd made good money there and so forth. And in many ways, he was still living off of that savings. And somebody found out about his background at Amazon. Somebody who was in New York
mm-hmm,
and offered him a partnership to launch. I don't know what the thing was, but to launch this project together. And Carlos saw it as a way to get to New York. He says, "Okay, yeah, sure, we'll give that a
mm,
try." So he came to New York, and bada bing, bada boom, to use the New York expression. Here we are, 6 months into COVID, and all of a sudden the company has 25 employees. He's about ready to help launch a second company just like it. The whole thing just exploded on him.
mm,
And it was a fascinating story for a number of reasons. First, because Carlos is a very positive and very appreciative person. And
mm-hmm,
so he was basically applying, not necessarily consciously through I know what the LOA is, but just because of who he was applying the basic principles throughout all that challenge that he had when he was knocked on his butt. And when the new opportunity came around as a result of all that, he was just open to it. And it wasn't what he had in mind. I mean, he wanted an acting career. That's what he thought he was going to
mm-hmm,
do. But this other thing comes along and he liked it. And he just kind of went with it. Now, did he analyze that in terms of being a passion? I don't think so.
mm,
But that didn't matter. What mattered is he enjoyed it and he felt good doing it and he liked the way it was kind of doing its expansion thing. So I bring that up as a way of pointing out two things. First, the value of appreciation.
mm-hmm,
Second, how a passion isn't necessarily what we think it is. And I'm not saying that the way I really want to say it. Our passion isn't necessarily what our preconception of a passion is. Discovering the passion is actually, in my opinion, more important than the passion itself, because you can only discover the passion by trying something new,
mm,
by checking out something you hadn't done before, considering something that had never been a possibility before, and now it's a possibility. It's like, oh, well, gee, that sounds like that would be kind of fun.
mm.
That's how passions actually can develop pretty easily. So I'm just curious to know what your take is on that. because it's not the usual story about how a passion is found.
Well, we know that the law of attraction brings you what you're putting out
Yeah.
and not what you think you're putting out.
Yeah. Yeah. There's that too.
So you're saying, I want to be an actor, but your vibration is saying, I have a vortex. And the thing that the thing that I can manifest for you quickest and easiest is something else that you've got in the vortex here. And it's closer and easier for me to manifest that for you. So I'll create a set of circumstances that'll put you in a position to pick up the other job. So, that's why we really need to be more open to anything that is possible out there. Just what I don't know. Have you ever seen that movie Meet Joe Black?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was a few years ago.
It's got a lot of one-liners.
Yes, it does.
And one of them was "Stay open, lightning may strike."
Oh wow, yeah, you're right. That was from that movie, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was when.
That was a while ago. That movie. That was like the '90s, wasn't it? It was
Yeah, I mean, I've watched it about 100 times. It's probably my all-time favorite.
Really? Oh, okay.
Yeah. I get really emotional during the end. I love that, and it just seems to happen every time. There's some intrinsic something about it. I mean, my brother watched it, for example, and he said, it's just full of a bunch of one-liners. So, I understand everybody doesn't appreciate it, which is completely fine. But it really hits me somewhere. The angel of death coming and taking on a physical body to wander around and experience life. It's just a real wacky concept.
It is a wacky concept.
And then, of course, you've got two great actors in it.
Oh yeah.
Actually, she's pretty good. Anthony Hopkins and Brad Pitt. So it's all brilliant. So if you just stay open, lightning may strike. And I really think that he was saying the words which I was looking for. We knew about his story was he really enjoyed it. It's not acting, something else, but he really enjoyed it. So it was like, yeah, cool. He's if he's enjoying it, he's in vibrational harmony with it, and he's going in the right direction.
That's it right there. Because when you have the passion for something, even if it isn't the one you originally had in mind, if it's still a passion is a passion. It doesn't really matter how you acquired it. It's still a passion. And the reason it's important is when it's a passion, it keeps fueling you, and you keep fueling it. It becomes very reciprocal in that sense.
Well, we started a conversation. I never finished it, so I was going to finish it. My wife and I are not particularly fond of animals, and I went off into Africa in my past life.
In your past life.
First time I heard that referred to a current life, my past life, I was really rather annoyed because I thought a lot about past lives. I'm getting sidetracked again. But
well, at least, you have a passion for that. That's good.
I do. Getting sidetracked. Yes, I have a very good passion. So let's go back to the story. We're not that fond, but my daughter always asks me, can we have an animal? Can we have an animal? So I said to her, I really don't want these aspects. I don't want to feed the cat or the dog, and I don't really want to walk it. And but I'd love to have one around. That's fine. I don't really mind. And the neighbors have got them, and everybody's got them now. The neighbor got their cousin or something. They got their cat, and they're looking after it. And this cat doesn't really get along with their cats, so it lives in our house. So it gets fed there. It gets fed there. All insurance and anything else it has to be worried about is theirs. And we get to have it sleep with us, walk around, chat to us, play with us.
My God, Louis, you got exactly what you asked for.
Exactly. And it's a combination of wants. It's what my daughter wanted, what we wanted. And it's kind of like it just all fitted together. And, in the beginning, you would think, no, there's a conflict here. I don't want it. My daughter does. But the universe can find a way.
Figured out a way, yeah.
Can find a way.
It's a great point. And it's easy to overlook that. I know I've overlooked it many times.
It's Daisy's aunt's cat.
Oh, okay. Do I hear Isabel there?
Yeah. She's informing me that it's the next door neighbor's aunt's cat.
Ah, well, yes, okay. We need to be precise. That's true.
Yeah. Well, she's precise for a reason. I wanted precision on that
I
subject, and she
know.
found
Yeah.
out for me. I want to know where this aunt is and how long they're going to be away.
Oh, dear.
Because the reason for that is the family's getting a bit attached to this cat.
Yeah. I get that.
So it'd be interesting to know how long the cat may be around or may not be around. And it really is a nice cat. It doesn't scratch, it doesn't pee. It's well trained. If it wants water, it finds it in its own way. And if it wants food, it goes next door. It's
That's
just
drinking out of the toilet.
yes, it
Yeah.
drinks out of the toilet.
They are known for that.
That happens when you don't have your own cat and you don't put out a bowl for it because it's not your cat.
That is the reason for putting out a water bowl, no doubt.
It is, and it is something we started to do. So yes, but it's all a learning curve.
I do like the fact that cats cats are a good example of what you were talking about. How you can have different dreams, different seemingly conflicting dreams, and they can come together. And a cat can be a good way to do that because cats are so independent. They can really pretty much create their own lifestyle. And I mentioned that because that's what happened with our outdoor cat, as I call him, Joy. He lives outdoor as much as he possibly can. He just can't do it during the winter because it's too darn cold. But other than that, he loves living outdoors. And the two of them, he's the outdoor cat, Harmony's the indoor cat. The two of them came to us as abandoned cats. They were abandoned by people across the road. And when they came to us, Louise was the one who found them. And she said, we had been talking about getting cats, and literally it was just in the talking stage. I was reticent about it. I wasn't really resistant, but I was reticent. And the reason I was reticent is because I know my own history of cats, which is very positive. But I also knew that meant that it was very likely I was the one who's going to be feeding. I was the one who's going to be looking after the litter box. I was the one who's going to look after all this stuff because that's what tends to happen. Nothing about my wife. I mean, my wife is fine. It's just that's the way things. Here's an example of it. When my wife and I met, my wife had just gotten a kitten. Our first time over at her apartment together, instead of me giving all my attention to her, the cat was coming over and demanding attention from me. And so I was giving my attention to the cat and pissing her off. That's the way cats and I have always been. It's just, it had nothing to do with her. It's just, I mean, literally, I can be in a room with 25 other people and the cat finds me. That's just the way it has always been. So I had a reticence about that because I knew that was what was going to come out. I was like, oh, geez, do I really want to go through this again? And I say that because that's just another way of, we got the two cats that we were looking for, because we'd actually talked about having two cats. That's his cat and her cat. I mean, literally, that's what it was all about. And we got it in a way that was in alignment, not necessarily with what I wanted, but with what I vibrated to. And in alignment with what she vibrated to. And in alignment with what they vibrated to, because he wanted to be the outdoor cat and she wanted to be the indoor cat. And that's exactly what they got. It all fit.
Fits it.
It all fit.
And it can specifically. Oh, I heard an incredible story once, and I'm not going to go into it yet. It's too long. About an American, an American guy who wanted a kid, but he had a very specific list of wants. So he went to Source and he said, "This is my list," very specifically.
Okay.
And the bottom line is, he got this Korean child on incredibly not traumatic, but complicated and convoluted way and level of trauma. Kid that was perfect, that fitted all the criteria.
Wow.
And yeah, had to go all the way to Korea, and the whole adoption process was really tricky and complicated and convoluted. And his trips there and mice under the bed and you name it, there was just like so many factors involved. And then everything that he asked for, he got. A kid that wasn't going to bother him too much, that was healthy enough, that because he's got a huge business and he's really focused on doing his own stuff, that would be able to do this, that, and the other. And it's incredible. He got every single thing that he asked for.
And that goes back to what you brought up as a point quite a bit earlier in the program today, that it isn't so much what we think we want, it's what we're vibrating to.
Mm.
And
And
that was
this
vibrating.
individual understands exactly how to vibrate what he wants, and you can see that in the businesses that he's created, and you know, in his incredibly successful life.
Mm-hmm.
The individual was incredibly good at all that. Like, you know, the story took about like 2 or 3 hours or something. It was
Wow.
so involved,
Yeah.
and it had us completely
Mesmerized.
stunned by the end of it. And you
Right.
know, you get these individuals in life that are amazing like that. They have incredible focus and clarity, to the degree that they're happy to, inverted commas in the old language, go to God and tell him what they want and make sure they get
Yeah. Right.
it.
That level of clarity, that level of precision is something I've been experimenting with a little bit. I think I told you a few weeks back, I bought this little monitor, what they call a heart math monitor,
Oh
and you
yeah, yeah.
plug in and so forth, and it measures your heartbeat interval or something like that. But anyway, the way that they teach you to use it, I've been experimenting with, and I've been realizing that what it really does more than anything else, it does a number of things, but the thing that it does
Mm.
most is help you learn focus.
Mm-hmm.
And
Then it's a very valuable tool.
it's very valuable for that reason. I was experimenting with it the last few days in particular. I've been trying to do it every single day and reach certain, thresholds of success, we'll call it that.
Mm.
Um, And today, as I was playing with it, one of the things that you get, there's an app that comes with it. You plug it into the app and all that kind of stuff. And as you're doing the heart math, we'll call it a meditation. It's not really a meditation, but it's pretty
Mm.
meditative. There's a little thing that you're watching to judge how quickly to breathe in, breathe out, according to what it wants you to do. And I was noticing the one that I was looking at had a little dot that would go to the left and then to the right and to the left. It just goes back and forth like that. And as it goes one direction, you breathe in, goes the other direction, you breathe out. And I was focusing on how well can I actually track that dot? Because, yeah, okay, we tend to track, oh, yeah, it's still there, it's still there. And we're checking periodically and so forth.
Mm.
But actually staying on that dot throughout the entire motion, that
Cutting
takes
everything else out.
and not jumping in
Yeah,
front of it and not jumping in back of it, staying right on that takes focus. That takes
absolutely.
real focus. And
The,
what I'm realizing is that's probably the most valuable thing I'm getting out of it right now. It's teaching me how to focus right now on what's happening right here, nothing else.
and
That's
you realize that you could have taken a string with a little stone and done the same thing.
oh, undoubtedly, yeah. But it's so much more fun with an app. I mean, let's be honest. If it wasn't more fun with an app, we wouldn't have so many apps in the world. This is why apps were created. Steve Jobs
Oh,
knew
this
that
is
years
funny,
ago.
Walt. This is funny. um, so there's an individual I really admire, and their level of enlightenment, they purport to have come from pure focus.
Hmm.
They would look at a leaf for hours or a whole
Mhm.
day and just look at the leaf. They
Mhm.
just look at the sky and the clouds for a whole day, and they would just look at the ground and at its feet just for the whole, just really look at it, just focus in on specifics for long periods of time. And he said, eventually he was tapping into source because he had that incredible ability to focus in on one thing. The law of attraction amplified it,
Right.
and then bang, you have all these experiences, and a very enlightened individual in my mind, which I've come to quite respect their point of view. And it's really interesting because they don't come from an intellectual point of view. They just come from kind of a knowing.
Yeah.
It's just a knowing.
Right. Yeah, it's
It's
almost
just amazing, and I respect that hugely, because
Mhm.
I've often been known to be anti formal education on almost every level.
Yes, I am very
People are
sympathetic.
worried about the kid in COVID. My daughter had to miss a whole term or two for COVID, and it's like, it's probably the best thing that could ever happen to her.
Yeah, right. Oh, we're such revolutionaries on education.
You know, my respect for formal education is as close to zero as you can get.
Jeez.
As long as she learns to read and write, which she's already done, that's about it. The rest, you know, like Robert Kiyosaki says, I'm always going on courses. Well, my wife and I are always going on courses, but we go on courses with people that have done it. They got the T-shirt on that subject. They've got the T-shirt, and we love it. And they're passionate, and they're exuberant, and they really know what they're talking about. I love those. Love going on those
I'm
courses.
actually fine with formal education. I think it's great. I just have one requirement, and that is the student has to choose it. Other than that, great, go for it. If that's what the student wants to do, then go for the formal education. If it's not what he wants to do, then go for something else.
One of the best things about formal education is the social aspect, I think. It was fantastic.
absolutely.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
If that's the only reason you want to go to university and then drop out after a year,
I wish I had actually spent more time on that aspect, to be honest.
Mm.
I mean, I spent quite a bit, but I wish I had spent more.
Yeah.
I didn't complete that particular course of study. So I had to do it later. I had to go back to summer.
Failed.
Well, actually, I succeeded. It created a new second career for me doing a podcast, but that's another story.
This is true.
So that seems like a nice place to stop. Just a reminder, speaking of apps, if you haven't downloaded the app, you got the hint, right? You want to download the app. And if you haven't shared the app, you got the hint, right? You're supposed to share the app because that's how we get to happen to more and more hands. And that's how more and more people get to know about LOA Today and get their daily dose of happy and get to find out about Louis D'Souza and the amazing things he has to tell us about how to be that conscious creator you always wanted to be. So thank you, Louis, once again. And
thank you, Walt.
I'm looking for
the listeners.
The upcoming visit from Isabel, where she gives us a little bit more than just a little visit at the end. So
I'm planning to put her on the spot.
Well, I'm happy to just let her do it when she's ready to do it.
I agree with you completely there. She's got to do it when she's going to do it.
And I'm sure she will.
I think it's really benefit because I haven't given her a lot of formal education on LOA, but she's got a gist of it. And I really want to know how she perceives that gist. And that's what I want to ask. Why does she think LOA is good for her is the simple question about the whole thing.
Well, I think we learned from the last time we tried to ask that while she was on the program is that it's probably better if you ask her that went off the program. She needs some time to process it. I mean, she hadn't thought about it that specifically before. So she's probably been thinking about it since then. So you'll probably get a better answer this time.
Yeah. Because you don't need much information to use LOA.
Not really.
Very little. No, very, very little.
Actually, most of the information comes from your own preconceptions and your experience, and
comes from your emotional guidance.
Yeah, all that stuff. You're just trying to connect it and say, okay, yeah, that checks. Yeah, that checks. Yeah, that checks. Yeah, it's like that process. Anyway, very good. All right. Well, then we'll talk again next week. Thank you very much to our podcast listeners as well. We'll see you all next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.
Carpe diem, everyone.